let her introduce herself as she has joined us. You'll see her on the screen for those that have signed in, where you'll be able to hear her.
Good morning, everyone. This is Julia Worcester, and if you have webcam ability, all you have to do is hit the little green button that says share your webcam if you want to see us. But if you can't, that's okay. I have been the legislative consultant for the association for about 10 years, and our firm has represented the association since the early 2000s, when Lauren Shipley at the Naval Academy said, you know what, we should get organized and get licensed. And so that's where it started. And it took a long time to get licensed. There were a lot of different things that go on in politics. So I have been doing this with you all since about the year or so before licensure happened. I'm trying to remember exactly when I took over the account. And I absolutely love working with this organization. When you all put your heart and soul into something, you really put your heart and soul into something. On the flip side, there's a lot of variables that happen when it comes to passing a bill, updating laws. There's always moving parts, and that is always the hardest part of my job, is the predictions. And so when we go forward with something, we usually try to explain that most large-scale legislative efforts take 3 years on average. And so what we wanted to do is, Ed, is it okay if I kind of go into a recap of 2018? Okay, so I'll back up to 2017. We had actually put in a very small bill prior to this year. And when I say this year, meaning 2018, because the 18 session just ended this spring, and so we'll be going into 19. So in 2017, we put in a small bill to alter part of your statute to allow for what was called tactical athletes. And it was a little bit rough around the edges. We were trying it out, and it didn't really go very far. We had some logistical situations. So we had a hearing. It just didn't really get off the ground. We just didn't have the groundswell that we needed. And that's okay. So instead, we sat down with Nick Pietruzella as well as Wes Robinson that summer of 2017, and they said, what would it take for us to do a big bill? And I said, it will take X, and that X was month-to-month actions, all summer and all fall. And then that was headed up by Ed, as well as the rest of the Government Affairs Committee, and we really formed an organized committee, and we gathered our stakeholders, we had meetings, we really worked hard. And going into the 2018 legislative session, that was what's called an election year session, meaning that everyone was running for office, and then they were going to have their primary in June and then the election in November. So going into it, we knew that some folks really didn't care about other issues. They cared about what they needed to care about for their district. So that's a little bit difficult. So what we did was we knew that going in. And what we did was we did what was considered a modernization of your Practice Act. So we went through the whole Practice Act and we updated a whole lot of sections. So for those who can see the PowerPoint, I'm not going to read it off, but for those on the phone who can't see it, what we did was we removed the workplace restriction on settings. We updated just all of the definitions related to athlete, athletic activity, athletic injury, and really tried to streamline so that when the law would be reprinted, you could read it as a provider. It would be easier to read. That was one of the biggest issues over the last previously the 8 years. It was very difficult to read. There was a lot of cross references in the code. And that was something that was done 10 years ago. Generally, we could add more athletic trainers to the workplace had the bill passed. And that's okay that we didn't get it passed, because what we did going into that last fall around this time, we had 2 town halls, one out in Frederick and one in Catonsville, I believe, Catonsville. And we had over 50 people attend between the 2 of them. And what we did was we had some speakers and we had some live streaming. When it did work, we were still working on our technology. And we really rallied a lot of folks and worked on our message. And our messaging was very, very, very spot on. And those town hall meetings led us into the legislative session. And we also booked a lobby day. It was a morning event where we had 100 athletic trainers and our friends show up in Annapolis, and it was a wonderful experience. We had our sponsors, the legislative sponsors at the event. We handed out materials and swag to all the legislators, and it was a huge turnout. So all of these things were huge victories for getting the association's membership excited about what we were doing. Immediately, actually that day, by happenstance, we also had our first bill hearing in the Senate, and that went pretty well. We had some unexpected opposition. We knew what our opposition was going to be, but we had some additional opposition due to some misrepresentation from some of the stakeholders who went out and said that our bill did something that it didn't. So that was new, and we had to do a little bit of crisis communications after that and explain that our bill did exactly what it said it did and did not do anything more. From there, we then had a hearing in the House side, I believe 2 weeks later, and that hearing was very well received. We had excellent witnesses, and so folks understand, in Annapolis, every bill that is submitted gets a hearing. So that means last year there were 4,000 requests. There were 3,200 submissions, meaning 3,200 of those 4,000 original requests became bills with a titled bill number. All 3,200 received a hearing. It didn't mean they all got a vote, but they all got a hearing. So we had 3,200 hearings in 90 days. It was it was a circus. And our bill got both hearings on the Senate side and the House side. And they were wonderful. We had our sponsors speak, we spoke, and then we had wonderful questions from the stakeholders. And we had some very staunch opposition. How this went down is that, as you all know, the Physical Therapy Association is our largest opponent. What they did was take everything in the bill and say that it did more than what it actually did. So it stirred up a little bit of a paranoia that we were changing your statute to do things to allow athletic trainers to do far more than what would honestly be medically allowable under your standard of care and education and training. So that information and what I would consider propaganda got disseminated out to the masses. And we had to spend a lot of time saying, no, it's not what it does. However, that being said, we had a lot of victories. I apologize for the sound of coffee being made in the background if you can hear that. After the hearings, you don't win a bill on your hearing, but we did have phenomenal hearings. We did a lot of meetings with legislators and explained a lot about what was going on. Unfortunately, we were asked to get together with the stakeholders, and I use that term loosely, the stakeholders meaning the opposition, and work it out. Well, there's no incentive for these stakeholders to come to the table and actually work it out, because they know if they continue to oppose it, they'll essentially kill our bill. So it was up to us, excuse me, to know that we had asked for everything that we wanted. We asked for Santa's wish list on that bill last year, and we knew that we may not get all of it. So what we did was we had a plan. We had plan A, plan B, and plan C. And we went through and we tried to negotiate everything where we could. And in the end, we did have a deal where we got 2 out of the 3 largest pieces of the bill that we needed. And then, unfortunately, there was actually a disagreement between the chair of the committee and the vice chair. The vice chair was on our side, and the chair was on the PT side. And here's what happened with the PTs. They gathered up a couple other stakeholders, and they got them to stay in opposition to us as well. And that made it much harder. Generally, these other stakeholders would not have opposed our bill so much, but they dragged them along as a larger opposing unit against us. So those negotiations broke down. And in the end, we said, you know what? We got our bill really close. We had a lot of really good things happen. We were not willing to do a bill or pass a bill that was really not going to get us anywhere. We would have rather said, thanks. We're not going to negotiate any further. Clearly the breakdown had happened with the chair and the vice chair. Thank you so much for all of your work. You all finish up session and go through with your elections. We're going to come back next year. And that was a decision. So that is not a failure. That is a strategic move where we ramped up everything we needed to do. And all of those things, those town halls, the lobby days, the meetings, the bill hearings, all of those things were incredible victories. Those things were really well done and well strategized and executed, so that we did what I consider have a very victorious session, even though the bill didn't pass. Then over the summer, we were taking the opportunity, we met with the Maryland Board of Physicians and talked through the language of the bill. And we had started making inroads on some other stakeholders. And we decided that some things were changing. And Ed, I think I might want to turn it over to you to explain a few other things from this summer, that if you think it's appropriate, towards the end of the summer, how, you know. Oh, you're on mute.
So as Julia said, we had a really good session. Unfortunately, too many people see a vote as the ultimate goal, and as much as that's what our end result, or our goal is ultimately a positive vote, but you know, the gains that we made, the meetings that were had, some of the things that Julia mentioned, you know, with the opposition, we also had great support on the other side. We found a lot of other stakeholders that were supporting us, from Pivot, ATI, Towson Sports Medicine. Some major PT groups are also very supportive of our bill. They see the benefits and they see the team aspect of this medical care. So not only did we meet some new opposition, but we also found some new supporters. And that's going to help us move forward as we take the next step in this process. The other thing that was very successful this summer and last spring was our Political Action Committee fund, which was really well received. We really started marketing that. That is something that has somewhat taken a side seat. It's been in the sidecar and carrying us along over the years, but we tried to move the Political Action Fund to a forefront. And you've seen some great work by Adam Brown and some others who have you know, really marketed the Political Action Fund and will continue to do that. We'll have some events and activities over the next 6 to 8 months to support the fund, in addition to the baseball game that we did last year, the clothing drive, the computer bags that are for sale right now, and some other activities. So we had some really good successes last year that brought us to the decision to not host a vote to withdraw our bill, because we were proud of what we were putting forward, and we didn't want to make changes that could either hurt us as an association or hurt any of our members that were working. So we made a plan this year to move forward. Our original plan was to move forward as we had done in 2018, to submit similar legislation with a few tweaks in the language due to what our opposition and some other things that we've learned. But we knew that this was also an election year. So we took that piece last year and submitted big legislation prior to the election, knowing that there could be some changes this summer. Over the summer, we had different events that happened. We've had a lot of exposure to athletic training in the state, and you know, we had that piece of that piece of the media that really supported athletic trainers as medical providers, and really brought us forefront in some of the news media. So that was a piece that we considered and we talked about, and ultimately the decision was made this year to not move forward with that same language, really due to the fact that this election year was
huge.
Huge. That's probably the best word for it.
And I'll jump back in on that to explain for those that are new on the election piece. We lost a couple folks. It just happens in their districts. We lost a chairwoman of the committee in the Senate. She lost her primary race. We lost our vice chair. He's still in the legislature, but he and the chair of the committee on the House have chosen not to continue their relationship as leaders. He has requested to move off that committee. So that's a very big deal for us. And when all shook out after the general election, 50% of our healthcare committees need to be replaced. So people either moved up to the Senate, somebody like Chris West, who was a delegate from Baltimore County, he ran for Senate, an open seat, and he did win. But we don't know if he's going to be on our committee. Actually, he's not going to be on our committee. So that is somebody who came off the House side of our supporting side, and he's just going to be in the Senate. He's not going to be on the committee of our jurisdiction. So all of these changes, and the House has not yet named their committees as of today. I've heard that a rumor that the list will be out this Friday, but I can't guarantee it. So due to the fact that it's not 50% of the legislature, it's 50% of our committee. And for those who may or may not know this, our bills in Maryland are worked heavily in the committees. In some other states, they're worked heavily on the floor or in other subgroups, but ours are worked in the committees. And that's why we made a huge decision to pull back and say, you know what, we're going to have, number one, we have to overcome all the opposition that we've had before, which we could do. And I don't think that that's a problem. It's just that there is so much additional new things that are happening. We made the decision not to do the bill. Also, with the media of our profession being on display, where you're going to use this opportunity to educate legislators with regard to different protocols that are out there and what is your profession, because you're going to have some newly elected legislators who may not even know what you are. They might be like, oh, you mean at the gym? And I don't mean to sound rude, but some people just don't know what certain providers do. They mix them up all the time, and that's okay because they're just elected officials. They may have a background in banking or farming. They may not understand how the healthcare system works with regard to what kind of providers do what. So we're going to take this opportunity to still do, this is why we wanted to do this webinar prior to the holidays, to know that we're not done, and we're not, just because we're not doing our bill doesn't mean that we're not doing other bills, because we believe, and we have reason to believe, that there will be some bills related to the athletic training profession, as well as other healthcare providers in other areas of potentially even high school athletics, concussions, some might come up. We have reason to believe that these topics might come back, and we'd like to dedicate our resources to being educational to those folks in Annapolis. And we want to continue to do the lobby day, because that's so huge. You're going to have the opportunity. If we can get 100 athletic trainers and friends across the city again to show up in Annapolis, that would be huge, because what we're going to do is set up meetings. You're going to be able to go out. You're going to be able to have a hot sheet on what is an athletic trainer, what we do, why are they important to the healthcare hierarchy, and you can use that opportunity to really make a connection to legislators there on the scene. Even if we don't have our specific bill, we will be doing a lot of groundwork so that we can. Oh, I just got feedback. Are we okay? So that's why it's so important. So today, we believe we're waiting for final confirmation, but our lobby day will likely be March 19th at about 8:30 in the morning in Annapolis. And we're going to be having breakfast. We're going to have legislators there, and it's going to be a huge day. So I want you all to tell your friends. We're going to send out a save the date, and there will be an online registration for that, because we need to track who's coming. But all of these things are important, and in order for us to be successful, normally this would be what would be considered a second year piece of legislation, but with all the things that were going on over the last 6 months, it's probably good for us to use it this way. That way, when we come back in 2020, we will come back stronger than ever and be able to get the bill that we want, not just a piece of the bill. So that's really where we are. We've also engaged with the National Athletic Trainers Association, who has made Maryland a priority to continue to work with. A couple other states are actually looking at the bill that we had originally submitted this year. I believe Colorado is doing almost our exact bill. Ed and I had a conversation with their head of government relations, and when she talked about our bill, it's what Colorado is doing. So right now, Colorado is doing what we did in 2018. So that's really important for us to monitor, because if it passes this session, we can say, look, Colorado just passed what you all didn't. Isn't it time to get on board? So a lot of times, sometimes you kind of have to wait for another state to do what you want. That way you can use it as leverage. And that's a little bit of what we're doing. And Colorado may have been interested in our bill because of the fact that we got so far. So there's a lot of different reasons and strategy that state government relations do things differently. And all of the success that we did have this year has become a model for how we're going forward, as well as how other states are looking at us. And we're going to be getting help. The California Athletic Trainers Association was very impressed by what we did. They had no idea that our legislative session was 90 days. They couldn't believe that we did so much work in 90 days. So California is looking to support us this next year, and other states. So having all your different groups, we have Pivot on board nationally. They're helping. So all of these things, even if we don't have a bill, our bill in 2019, it's leading up the groundswell, and it's going to get us a lot further to the finish line next time. What else are we doing? I would love to focus on you all. I see that we now have 26 people on this call. Go out and tell your friends. Go out and tell your doctors, your chiros. Tell them why this is important. Tell them, could they even imagine operating under an antiquated statute? Tell them that it's so important to, that professions aren't stagnant. Healthcare is not stagnant. It's not created and sits forever and ever and ever. If you are a doctor or a banker or a farmer, you're not doing the job the way you did 50 years ago. You're doing it differently, and that's why laws have to be updated. So I believe that if you all tell your friends and colleagues, and as you gain your own grassroots efforts in your various areas, and we've got Frostburg on the line right now, we got Montgomery County on the line, we got Howard County, you get those people, you get your administrators, you get your doctors, you get your parents, teachers, and folks to understand it. That helps us. And if those folks are willing to tell a legislator, or if you're willing to talk to someone, you might know someone. Who is it over out in Frostburg? Is it Karen? I forget her first name.
Carla.
I'm trying to look on our list.
Carla.
Carla, thank you. I knew it was a that. Carla, if you know any of your Western Maryland folks, they love to hear. Call them up. Go to coffee and say, hey, I work in your district. Or heck, you may have helped one of their kids, or maybe helped one of them. You never know. And those kinds of things, we're going to provide talking points, because we want to make sure that when you, as an athletic trainer in the state of Maryland, go out and talk to either a legislator or an administrator at a college or a high school or a physical therapy group, that we have messaging that is helpful to you all. So when you have questions and you say, hey, how do I explain what we're doing? Boom, we've got, a PDF that we can send you that you can use to go get coffee with someone, or Ed and I can go with you. We're willing to travel all over the state to help our members feel comfortable being involved in politics, because you never know where you're going to run into somebody. I think it was Adam who's on the call right now. Adam met one of our lead champions in the Senate because he was at a wedding. He was at a wedding, and they're hanging out and they're talking, and they started talking about our issues. And he said, let me know what I can do. So last year we had a meeting with him, and he was one of our key sponsors of the legislation. He's helping us out again this year. He's helping us organize our lobby day in Annapolis. Those are the connections. Those are the personal connections that matter. And especially when you're going forward with a new legislative a new legislative term. For the next 4 years, we have all these new people in Annapolis that are going to be coming from your districts all over the state, and they need to know who you are. They need to care. We need to make you care about your patients. You need to make them care about you. So hopefully that kind of gives us the opportunity to open it up to questions. And Ed, I'll just turn it back over to you. Sorry, I kept talking.
That's okay. Yeah, certainly ask questions. There's a chat feature on the right side for those that are signed in. Others that want to either speak or send me a text, you can send a text to 207-491-4435. So those are some options for asking questions. But as Julia said, now is a chance really to reach out and make contact with individuals. I'll give everybody a second. Anybody have a question right now?
And somebody's got some major backfeed. Can you guys mute yourselves if you're not talking? But if you have a question, jump in and ask the question.
I'm seeing if I can mute individuals. I can't necessarily mute individuals.
Oh my gosh, that's so crazy. Just mute everybody.
I'm trying. Won't let me mute everyone. So
Okay.
I think hopefully we can keep talking.
Oh, God, that's loud. Please mute yourself. Who's ever on the phone? Thank you. I think it went away. Okay, so if you have any questions, does anybody want to know about the process? Anybody want to know about the details of bills or what lobby day goes into, or just ask us, you know?
Right.
Ask us anything. Or if you want to get involved, there's a lot of different ways you can get involved. You don't have to just show up in Annapolis, although on March 19th, we want you to show up in Annapolis. So we're just asking for one morning out of your day, out of your winter, to come down and lobby on behalf of your profession. But when it comes to legislation, you know, we want your experience. We want to know clinically, how does something affect you? Is there, you know, is there something going on in a hospital system that you know of? Is there something going on in a clinic group that you know of? Give us your questions. Ask us if it's something, or if you know that something's kind of squirrely going on, or that you know that there's a job opportunity that if the law were to change, the job would be better, or there would be a new job. Let us know, because we know there are companies across the country. There is a question, would we be able to post all of the legislators' name and contact info? Yes, once their stuff is finalized, the question is, can we post all of the legislators' names and contact info on the MATA website? Yes, it's not finalized yet because the General Assembly website is not updated. And for those who don't know, or actually most people don't know this, Maryland is very weird this way. Our newly elected folks that were elected in November do not take office and are not official until the first day of session, which is mind-boggling why we do that. So for those who follow county politics, your county execs and your county councils that were elected in November, they were inaugurated in December, so they're already in office. Our folks don't get that until the statewide folks are not until January. So all of their stuff won't appear until January, but yes. Oh, hang on.
That was me, Julia.
I can hear you.
Yeah, that was me. I was trying to mute everybody and realized it mutes you as well.
Now I can't hear you. Okay.
Julia?
Okay, now am I back again?
Yeah.
You keep muting me? Are you muting me?
No, I did mute you originally, and then I think you had to unmute yourself. So that was a technical issue, trying to get others muted.
No problem.
So there is a website, Julia, correct? The Maryland General Assembly website that they can check.
Updated. But it's
right,
not
it's
updated.
not updated, but they can check once it is updated.
And we'll put it on our website once it's updated. And somebody said, when is the first day of session? That is Wednesday, January 9th. Somebody says, how does the process of lobbying or a lobby day differ in a time when we won't have a bill introduced? Ooh, really good question. Thanks, Tim. Well, the process, if we have our bill, is much more, I would say, aggressive and intense. We're lobbying our issue. So we would be there and we would be aggressively meeting with legislators and telling them about our bill and asking for their vote. Following up with that, we would also be having a hearing and we would be sending letters and emails saying, we want you to vote on House Bill, blah, 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 whatever bill number it is, et cetera. It would be a little bit more aggressive. The lobby that we're doing now is more of an educational, getting to know you lobby day. So it's a little less aggressive and less intense. It's a little bit more, hi, my name is Tim. I'm an athletic trainer in X county. I do blah, blah, blah. My expertise is in this. I've lived in Maryland 7 years. I don't know. I'm just making this up as I go along. Do you know what an athletic trainer does? Delegate so-and-so. And they may say, you know what? I feel like I do, but tell me a little bit about that. So it's a little bit more informational, and you can say, well, an athletic trainer is a bachelor's degree or master's degree in blah, blah, blah. Background. We work in these kinds of settings. We work on these kinds of patients. We're looking to, and then you slip in, we're really looking to modernize our Practice Act. We don't have a bill this year, but I want to be a resource. So please feel free to call us or the association anytime. We're going to give you a script on Lobby Day. We're going to do how that works. Now, if there are other bills related to the profession, if there's something that attacks the profession, or if there's something that has to do with, I'm just going to use concussions as an example. Last year, there was a concussion bill that basically rewrote the definition. The legislator who put it in didn't know what they were doing. It changed the entire medical definition, which isn't correct. We lobbied hard against that bill. And we said, look, that is a terrible idea. You don't just change a medical definition that doesn't match what the actual national standard of care is. And we partner with doctors on those kinds of things. We partner with other stakeholders. So that would be the long answer of what the process that's different. If we had a bill, it would be very aggressive. If we don't have a bill, this is an opportunity to educate brand new legislators. They're new, they're shiny, they don't know anything about anything, and we're here to tell them what they need to know.
Right. So, Tim, to follow up on that, last year we did a Lobby Day reception, which is very similar to what we do this year. And then what we did is we went out and just canvassed all the offices. So we sent a group of students, mostly from Towson University, but a group of students, only because of the weather. I know Frostburg had a plan to come out, and so I think Salisbury had a plan to send some students, but we couldn't have them driving across the state in bad weather. So we canvassed all the offices, gave them a little bag, a swag bag, and some information. This year, one of the reasons we're going to do a sign up is, in addition to just having an idea of what numbers are coming, we're also looking to focus individual meetings with legislators. So it won't be necessarily just you and a legislator. If there's 2 or 3 from your district, we'll send you all together to meet a legislator. In addition to educating them what we can and do, we're also there to try to find out a little bit about them. We may find out that they're a former college athlete or high school athlete. We may find out that they went to a school that we have had an athletic trainer at. So say we find out that one of our legislators went to Loyola High School. We may have a connection there with their athletic trainer that we can kind of facilitate that relationship with, and kind of work together to make all of those connections and put that together. So that's a little bit different that we're going to do this year, would be the one-on-one meetings. To answer Joe's question, we will be targeting new legislators for sure. And those are some meetings that we as a government affairs committee will take on. If any of you know a new legislator and would like to go meet with them, we'll certainly help you facilitate that. But we're also going to be going down and meeting with a lot of the new legislators, particularly those that are on our committees, to kind of to get them on board.
Hey, Ed, we just had 2 questions. One, Joe says, can we organize something for just new legislators? Yes and no. It's really hard to do just them. There's 71 of them, number one. And so there's already a huge amount. We theoretically could try, but it's almost just easier to just do a lobby day for everyone. But what we'll be doing is really targeting meetings with the new folks, because the folks that have been around, they know who you are. So that's really where the focus will be. And we're going to try and invite them to our lobby day and hope that they show up and that they get some one-on-one time. The second question is from Jane. Hi, Jane. It says a group of certified tried to walk around with the students too. Can you? That
was last year during the lobby day. Yes, Jane, you're right. It was not just students. It was students that paired up with our certifieds together. Everyone certainly everyone went around offices to offices. So I didn't mean to leave out our certifieds because they were integral in last year's canvassing of the offices. So we won't host an event for all the new legislators, but we'll identify the new legislators that are on committees that are important to us, both the HGO and the EHE committee, and work to really identify or campaign a little bit with them to
I appreciate that. That's a good idea, that we should definitely focus on a lot of the new folks because they have no idea who any of you guys are. And we'll just kind of go from there. All of you are so important to us because everyone has different backgrounds. And just so everyone understands that we know that going forward with new legislation, going in the next following year, it's not a boon for every athletic trainer. Some athletic trainers are perfectly happy with the law as it is, but we have to look at the future and down the road. Where do you want to be another 10 years from now? Because 10 years ago, we put the bill together and we never realized that it would be as restrictive as it is now 10 years later. So we're really trying to think, where is the profession going 10 years from now? Because we don't want to have to do this again. And we're making that case to the legislators that we say, look, the more you ask us to restrict our own law, the harder it is for us to grow as a profession. And those are taxpayers. You are taxpayers. We want to encourage more athletic trainers to come to Maryland. We want more athletic trainers to work with doctors and chiros and PTs all across the state in varying ways within your scope of practice. And if the scope does change, or if your national standards change, then we work with that. So it's really important, so that that's a message we want to carry on, that healthcare is not stagnant. It does not stay the same forever and ever. So that's really the goal this year, is to instill that tidbit as we go forward. What, number one, is what is an athletic trainer, and two, why we need to move forward, and that will plant the seeds. There's another question from Joe that says, is it a good idea for individual members to contact legislators and personally invite them to our lobby day in the weeks leading up to the event? That is a resounding absolute yes. Absolutely. If you know them, or you just want to pick up the phone and call your district folks, if you know who they are and you know how to find them, we can help you find them. Pick up the phone and call them and say, hi, I live in your district. I'm coming to Annapolis. I'd like to meet with you. 100%. Or please join me at XYZ breakfast reception. We're going to have all that info. Yes, Joe. Wonderful. Joe's our new VIP today. Love that.
Yeah, so Joe, we'll give everyone some information on legislators, how to get in touch with any legislator, but also the individual contacts for our legislators on our committee as specific targets. But certainly any legislator in your district would be a great person to reach out, contact, and both invite them to Lobby Day or our legislative reception, but also ask for a 15-20 minute meeting with them sometime during the day. Our goal is to go from about 8 to 12, not hold everybody up all day long, but really have an organized session from about 8 to 9, 9:30, and then move on after about 9:30 and try to get people out to individual offices to meet with the legislators. Are there other questions? These have been some great questions.
We might do another one of these webinars during session, like late January or mid-February, just to kind of give you an update of what's happening. I like the webinar. It's sometimes easier than what emails. I'm sure you get a ton of emails from the association and your other friends and family and a million other coupons that you get already. So if you have an opportunity to log in for 20-30 minutes during a lunch break, we're going to offer this again as a here's what's going on during session, and here's the update on getting ready for Lobby Day. And you can ask questions about things, a lot more answers to who's on the committee, what's going on, what bills are introduced. So we're going to do this again. So please give us your feedback, what you liked, what you don't like, and we want to hear from all of you. There's 25 of us on. This is wonderful. This is exactly what we were hoping to do. I'd love to see all your faces, if possible, on the webinar. And from there, our door is always open. Ed has my contact info. You can find us via the Facebook page. We're very active on that. can we get your PowerPoint? Yeah, I think so. I don't think there's a problem to send that out. Right, Ed?
Agreed. Yeah, no, not a problem. We will,
I guess put it on the listserv or whatever,
yeah,
or wherever.
I'll send it, Amber, I'll certainly send it to you directly, but also we'll try to get it made into a PDF and sent out in either an e-blast or something from Kelly.
Cool.
So, Carly, you're
Well, thank you
welcome.
all.
We are not alone in this fight. We appreciate everybody else's input and energy. We're just leading the charge. So thank you.
We will be your fearless leaders for good, bad, or otherwise. You guys can come to us anytime. And we really thank you for all the work that you do. And we know that it's hard sometimes with politics. You know, there's a lot of ups and downs, but we are really, the momentum is going and it's going really, really well. So we're going to really kick butt this year and get ourselves in a very good position so that year 3 is our year. So just know that this is all a big process. And Ed, I think I'm good. So I just want to say thank you all for showing up today. Go eat your lunch and get back to work. Ed, any final thoughts?
I don't have any final thoughts. I've just quickly put our contact information here for anybody that is reading. Certainly you can find my information on our website, and we'll go. Appreciate your time. Ask questions, be engaged. Let us know how we can help you engage with your local legislators, and just toot your own horn and share our story of athletic trainers around the state. And the more of that we can do, the better off we are. And let's keep this rolling. So thank you. Have a great holiday for everyone. Everyone be safe. And may all your athletes be safe and you all have fun.
Have a wonderful New Year, y'all. I'm just saying bye. All right,
Goodbye.
bye.